right, and welcome back to part two of our Anonymous Code Science Adventure discussion. We're layer one. We're basically just going to continue right where we left off with the last one. These episodes are going to go up super close together, but, since they're part one, two. Yes, Fray, where were you?
I think it's funny because anonymous code was like what's revealed in anonymous code was again has kind of been hinted at the whole time throughout the series since the beginning. Again with Fess, with the Skyclad Observer song, the different kind of with Mew before, um, and throughout the series there's a lot of um there's a lot of reference to the concept of the world kind of being represented ultimately by um, zeros and ones, or zeros and ones and negative one, something along those lines. Very again, very uh, computery, I guess is the best way to say that.
It's like, we're in a simulation. Let us out.
And now that Chaos Head Noah, again the kind of updated director's cut of the original first entry Chaos Head is out, on Steam for anyone to be able to buy. So you'll probably have to patch it, but many such cases. Um, you can have now that we have the these extra routes for the game. There's I'll give a spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't played that, because it's not like it'd be one again. It's not like if you haven't read an anonymous code where it's like, why would you watch um a video or listen to a podcast about something. It says what it is on the tin,
Yeah.
but we're not putting Chaos Head on the tin, so I'll give a spoiler warning if you don't want to. Spoilers, get the hell out. But in one of the routes, Senna's route, there is you can talk actually over on the computer through text with the main like overarching antagonist of the series, the Committee of 300, the Illuminati. Um, and they like flat out tell you, yeah, the world's a simulation, dog. Um,
Oh,
like we're way more powerful than like you could ever imagine. Like we're not even like some of our guys are on your layer, but like we're like above you, dog. We're like literal gods to you. And it's kind of like it's kind of been like up to you whether you want to believe them or not, because it's just like it's this side route that's not canon, and they could just be lying to you to try to like screw with you. And honestly I think that's still kind of the case even now that an anonymous code's out and we have confirmation that the world is a simulation. So they're kind of telling the truth, but they still could be lying, honestly.
yeah.
um
Just the ones on that layer are just bluffing.
exactly, because how would they know when Earth simulators. Well, actually, do Earth simulators exist? They fuck, they might actually,
Hmm.
because I was gonna say, well, Earth simulators wouldn't exist at the time, but like, one, you find out in robotics notes that at the same time that, like a year before Chaos Head, there was already like secret Illuminati AI and what's it called when they like freeze?
Oh, the cold sleep. Yes.
Cold,
Oh,
yeah, they have the cold sleep.
yeah. Suspended
Uh,
animation, basically. They
yeah,
just call
they
it
already
cold
have.
sleep in universe, which is
Yeah, but so suspended animation and AI like already exist by like 2007 in this universe. So, and then I'm remembering just now actually that it is canonical that by 2012 the Vatican already has a secret Earth simulator called Necro Pilgrimage, which is an amazing name, by the way.
What a name. Need to
Such a good
name my PC that or something.
name. Exactly. But Necro Pilgrimage has existed since at least 2012 in universe. So maybe there was already Earth sims like at- before that we don't know about, or like at least prototypes. I'm not sure now. Now I'm doubting myself.
Mhm. Well,
Um,
it does, even if it doesn't exist at that time, like they still simulate through history, so time still passes. And like, so even if it wasn't made in like 2010, 2011, a future one would have just been simulating that instance in time, basically.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of it's confusing as fuck now. But the point is, anonymous code kind of really muddled that whole interaction because for the longest time it was kind of just like taken as like a joke, like like the writers through the committee of 300 in this route are just kind of screwing with us, the audience. But now it's like, oh, wait, no, they were like telling the truth. The world is a simulation. What the hell? What else were they telling you the truth about? We don't know. As of now, and I think we we definitely need more entries on the series. I think before all the questions are gonna get answered because there's still. I mean, for one, we know there's gonna be a new Steins something entry sometime soon, hopefully, maybe,
Yeah.
and maybe hopefully we'll get Occultic 9 like officially over here in some way that's not like an unfinished light novel series or anime, um like the actual visual novel in some way. um but I was gonna say, with science adventure, we've reached this point now where I'm very much excited for like what's around the corner, because this latest, because Anonymous Code has really revitalized the series in a big way for me. And I think one of the ways in which it's done that is, again, this kind of, the way in which it's recontextualized the rest of the series now. um because I guess if we want to get talking about the overarching kind of story of the series, um as we've mentioned before, the overarching antagonists are, again, literally the Illuminati, literally, or as they're commonly called in the series, the Committee of 300, which is a real like conspiracy theory, like a real.
Conspiracy theory.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
it's a real. It's something from real lore, I guess you could say. Um, it's an actual name that's used. Um, and I mean, I don't gotta explain the Illuminati, I don't think, but again, I think how like their goals and how they go about things and how they're depicted throughout the series are, I think, very interesting, because, and why I think personally they're not what they say in Senna's route. Wow, we know to be more true now than ever before. Um, I don't think is entirely true, because they go on about how, like, oh, we're like above you and we're gods basically. But one of the things that I find interesting is that throughout the series, yes, they're very powerful, they're very formidable. Again, they're behind everything. They control, um they controlled Nozomi and Chaos Head, and we're behind Project Noah. They control CERN. and are behind, the time travel Z program. In robotics notes, they're behind the fake robot uprising, Project Mars, and they're behind Project Adam with the whole black hole bomb thing. Um, they're obviously behind the whole like spirit realm immortality shenanigans in Occultic Nine.
Yeah.
Um, and they've clearly um, they've clearly been aware of the third secret of Fanima and that the end of the world is coming, but they haven't done anything about it. So again, they're behind a lot of things. They're very influential, very powerful, but they're not all powerful. They're not these godlike figures they say they are um in Senna's route in Chaos Head, because they clearly don't have control over everything. There's clearly aspects of the world that they don't have control over, and this is of course um in a sense this makes it more, I guess, true to life, because again, the grand plan, which is to like eradicate like 5 billion people, um so that the rest can um be controlled and basically be their slaves. um if they were like the kind of meme Illuminati who control everything already, like they wouldn't need to do that, right?
Mhm.
um they wouldn't need to go to that extent if they already control everything. And of course, throughout the series, a lot of the series kind of, with the exception of Steins Gate, I think, as the sole exception, the rest of the series is the result of things going awry. Well, not the rest of the series, because there's Chaos Child, I think. Steins Gate and Chaos Child and maybe Occultic Nine are like to the T textbook. Everything is the Committee of 300.
Yeah.
Um, but Chaos Head happens because they lose control over Nozomi. Nozomi, like the main group behind most of the events of Chaos Head. Um, the the like CEO goes rogue and like rebels against them and seeks to do his own thing with the technology, the reality bending technology they're developing. Um, him and a few other players, political and religious, in the story go rogue. In I think is robotics notes the same way too?
Yeah,
Kimijima?
yeah, it's Kimijima's also goes rogue, but just by himself. Unlike the other one
Yeah,
was, as a whole company. This one is it was just Kimijima who went rogue from
yeah.
uh
Well, Chaos said it wasn't just the company either. It was the Church of Divine Light and the
yeah,
Meiwa Party.
yeah, it was
I'm
quite a
trying to
bit.
remember. I'm trying to remember if Kimijima does actually, if he. 'Cause I'm trying to remember if he was just he was trying to make the protagonist think he went rogue,
Oh
but
right.
or if he actually did went rogue. I'm cannot remember for the life of me. Um, bitch in the comments if you do, if you're like a lore head. Um, but I might be wrong though. I think maybe it is. I think he kind of. I think he kind of goes like pseudo rogue, but he's still like well within the committee's parameters for the most part.
Yeah, like it's still a similar goal, but
But he kind of does it in a way, I think, that like kind of annoys the shit out of him.
yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Like he's still kind of going like along with it, but it's not. And then Occultic Nine. I don't know what the deal is with Occultic Nine fully. Again, for previously stated reasons, they just I don't know. Chio needs to release New World already.
Yeah,
Um,
because
the New
the
World update.
visual novel was kind of uh, incomplete, quote unquote, kind of like
Yeah,
just
apparently.
empty, and
Supposedly,
the anime did its own thing. It rushed, like, because there was only it was there's a lot of things that cascaded because there was a light novel series coming out that he didn't finish, so the anime had to adapt an unfinished story and end it, and then they made the visual novel, which also didn't really add much
yeah.
to what already existed. So what we've been waiting for is, a la Chaos Head Noah, is a director's cut, if you will, of Occultic 9, but we've still got nothing. We don't even have translations of the base version of it. So
Yes,
we don't
exactly.
know. And it's been years, and anonymous code came and went, and still nothing on that front.
Yep. So you're never. We're not really. At least I don't think we're really clear on whether the what happens in Occultic 9 is like a fully like committee plan, or if it's members going rogue to become
Yes.
immortal.
But interestingly, it's one of the few that it just directly shows the committee as the antagonists. Like, just it's just them. It's not some subsidiary or you know CERN or things like.
Well,
It's just guys. It's the spooky shadow guys in a room. It's just them.
it is spooky shadow guys in a room, but I don't think it's actually confirmed whether or not they're like actual committee members, or if they are just a subsidiary groups working under them, because like that happens in Chaos Head too. You see the guys in their like shadowy little room plotting stuff out. They're literally plotting again. Chaos Head just spells it out more, where you see them literally plotting out going rogue, and they're talking about like we got to do this right because the committee's always watching, and they're very formidable, and if they find out we're doing this, like we're fucked. Um, that never happens in Occultic 9, so again, that kind of does imply that it is like a proper committee thing, but it could also not be. um, it could also not be. We just don't know yet. But in Anonymous Code, you are explicitly told that the Holy Office 513 are a splinter group offshoot of the Committee of 300. Um, which is interesting. I wish they went into that more. I really
Yes,
do,
yeah, yeah,
because like, how does that work? Does that mean only the Holy Office actually knew about the end of the world? I don't believe that. I think the committee would know too. But then also, why did they never do anything to stop it? If Because I would think they would want to stop it, because they don't seem to want to end the world. They want to just do a little trolling, kill 5 billion people, and then like rule over it. That there's no. I don't think they would want to like. If they would want the complete erasure of reality.
yeah. That'd make all of their
uh,
plots pointless, pretty much.
yeah. So then either A, they know and just are letting the offshoot do their thing, or B, they don't know, which again means they're not as all powerful as they make themselves out to be. And again, I think Chaos Head actually probably spells out the most that they're not as powerful throughout the story, because again, Nozomi and the Mela Party and Church of the Divine Light go rogue. Um, and you get kind of told a lot more explicitly, like, oh yeah, they don't have like complete control over everything, obviously. So even though they're very powerful and they're very formidable, you can still work around them. you can still kind of hide from them a bit. Um, and that's very interesting. But of course there's still like it's very hard. You can win your battles, but as of this latest entry, there's no real indication that the war has been won, or that it will be won soon. Um, and so it very much reminds me again of more Dickian concepts, specifically of concepts of the Black Iron Prison and um, the notion of the Empire never died. Um, I think it's you get the sense that this is why I find this interaction in Senna's route to be so fascinating because like again there is some truth to it, but yeah, I'm not sure it's entirely true. But in the sense that it does appear to be true, or that it might be true, they're even if they're not all powerful and have supreme control over everything in the world of science adventure, it's clear that their control is to such an extent that it is believable that they do have a level of control and of course awareness of their reality that is beyond just the average person. And so um you get this sense that, and I think part of the reason why people have for a while now kind of criticized this one thing the series has done only just twice now, but um where because for most of the series, each entry um takes place um the year before it releases, um or thereabouts.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty close. Except, well, yeah, second instance of it being set in the future from when it was made, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. Because so Chaos Head was 2008 and it takes place in 2009. Um, Steins Gate released in 2009, takes place in 2010. Chaos Child was released in 2014, takes place in 2015. Um, Occultic 9, the first volume of the light novel, which was its first iteration, was in 2013. But the story takes place in 2016, so that's a bit in the future, but not.
not much, not notable.
Yeah, yeah. It's when you, especially when you read it and when you watch the anime, like it's still it looks and feels like 2016. Um, especially since the anime was made later, so that's probably
Yeah,
helps it specifically. But the other volumes of the light novel came out later, obviously. Um, uh, and so then, um, Robotics Notes was the first instance where they really tried to shoot for the future. It came out in 2012, but it takes place in 2019. Um, and of course, Anonymous Code, released last year in 2022, takes place in 2037. So it's not it's not super far in the future from when they're released, but because it's set far enough in the future, they make it the world of those entries doesn't feel as I mean, the best way to explain this is to kind of just talk about it. Robotics Notes, for instance, has as a common part of the world, which I think is important to know. Yes, there's crazy technology in the other entries, but they're like secret, like conspiracy technology that no one knows about. That is kept hidden from the public.
Yeah,
No one's supposed to know about them. Obviously, time travel in Steins Gate, reality bending in Chaos Head, um, and Child, um, and all the spiritual astral projection insanity of the Cultic Nine. In Robotics Notes, though, you have like crazy advanced augmented reality. That's just a common part of the world. Um, Everyone and their mom has like replaced cell phones with like tablets. Um, that they like have special like tablet holsters for.
that was a very 2012 vision of the 2020s.
Yeah, which like don't get me wrong, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I actually wish that had happened. Like Kai's little like fucking like wild like West gun holster style tablet holster is sick. I want it.
it's great. Yeah,
I need it. I need it so bad. Um and what else is there? There's
the
oh,
robots.
the robots. Yeah, they have which on one hand there's robots like not everywhere, but they're like a fairly common like thing in the world of 2019 science adventure.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of like you can equate them to kind of what a little bit of what we're seeing now with a lot of those weird little like delivery drone cars and those
but
silly
it's like
little like supermarket little things wandering around with just obviously it's more advanced version of that, but it's like
exactly,
you could
and
see
that's
where
the thing
that's going.
is it's more advanced than what really came about. You see a lot of like humanoid robots. It's really funny kind of comparing them to like the reality because like they're definitely more advanced than what we had in 2019.
Oh yeah,
But when you look at what we have now, like the fucking Boston Dynamics stuff that we have now, like
yeah.
the Spot and Atlas, like that stuff is in certain ways way more advanced than what they showed in robotics notes.
Oh yes, and another added thing of the exosuits being a more widespread thing also for the for not the funny advanced warfare thing, but for like I said, wheelchairs and things like that.
Yes, they have, which it's not even the fact that they have that technology at all. It's not even something we have yet. Like
No,
one of the
no, here it's
characters,
still pretty
one of the
niche.
characters who is like paralyzed in the story. She doesn't have the use of her legs. In the story, she has like fully like functional, like relatively lightweight, like or not maybe not lightweight, but like non-bulky, like exoskeleton legs that restore movement to her legs. She can walk again,
Yeah,
and that's just not possible today. And then you get later on, you see in like an even more advanced exoskeleton that lets one of the other characters like do like superhuman feats, and you're just like, yeah, like some straight up like advanced warfare type stuff, and you're just like, no, that's not that does that did not come to be in 2019. And then of course the big example is the giant flipping robots,
of course, of course.
which are just like a common thing. Now I wish we had like giant robots like that in 2019. By 2019, that would have been awesome. But alas, we do not like. They literally have like a giant robot expo in the world of robotics notes, and I'm just like,
Yes, why can't we
that
have
would be
that?
so cool. but
Hmm.
alas, the laws of physics uh, exist here.
The laws of physics, and also, um, we really like it's cool, but then you think about it a little more, and it's like, do I really want to monkey paw the concept of Metal Gears into reality?
On
It's
one
just like,
hand,
ah,
I
you
totally
get your
understand.
cool big robots, but
On one hand, I totally understand. On the other hand, though,
big robot.
I, I would yes, big robot. Like I'm not a fan of the military at all, and I don't think really anyone of my generation is. If you look at the like recruiting numbers, if the U.S. military it like actually invented giant robots and like created like a giant robot squadron, dude, they would have no problems with recruits, dude. I would fucking join. I'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up for the giant robot squadron. I don't even care if I don't like get the pilot one, even if I just like get to like work as like a like pit crew for like a mech. Like that'd still be awesome as hell.
It'd be so good.
So yeah, I'm just part of the mech pit crew. Like even that would just be awesome to be able to do and say.
Yeah, yeah. No, at best you can clean up Boston Dynamics dogs. I don't know.
And don't get me wrong, like the Boston Dynamics stuff is cool.
Oh yeah,
Like it is cool. Like that's genuinely awesome as hell. And I'm so like glad we have like people like that like making like actual cool robots. But w- one of the problems that robotics notes doesn't seem to take into consideration is that even when once you do get cool robots like that, they're expensive as hell and like crazy complicated to build. So even once you do have them, they can't just be everywhere
yeah,
because
yeah.
like no one has money for that.
Yeah, exactly. Which again, the one little that ties into a lot of like cyberpunk things in general that people don't question too much is the widespread of like cybernetics and androids and things. It's just like,
Yeah, when
what,
realistic, that would
what do
be
you mean
doing
these
more
homeless
than
people can have like advanced like cybernetics?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's like no, that wouldn't. That's completely unrealistic. Like
No, it's like you'll have
a
your
realistic cyberpunk world, no one would like. Most people would not be chromed out.
no, no.
And then of course, tie into this in anonymous code, which takes place again in the 2030s. We're probably not gonna have like crazy advanced brain machine interfaces by then. Um, nor like weird pseudo anti gravity bikes or probably not world simulators
Oh gosh,
either.
even
Like
less so. Like we might have
yeah,
advanced AR at the at best.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're probably gonna have pretty solid AR by then, honestly. Especially when you look at stuff like the Apple Vision coming out now. Even I hear even the new Quest 3 has like some pretty decent like AR mixed reality
Yeah.
capabilities for being a relatively cheap product, which is another thing that is sorry, I'm just I'm dying inside realizing that like Ready Player One understood this aspect of technology better than Science Adventure has, which is that like technology like technology that spreads is technology that's affordable, and that's what we're kind of seeing with VR and this like these headsets,
Yeah.
you know, is that like everyone and their mom has a Quest 2. This crazy like compared to like before, like now it's kind of old hat, but like and especially to like VR junkies, which
Oh, I know.
the fact that like there's the fact that VR junkies are a thing in our world now is like holy
Oh,
smokes.
the slippery slope.
It begins, yeah. But like something like the Quest 2, as decent as it is, and being so affordable, like only like 200 something bucks, that's how technology spreads, and that's how I mean that's the stuff of that's some real cyberpunk shit,
Yeah.
like
It starts to trickle down to people who can afford it instead of
yeah,
just, oh yeah.
yeah,
Now you have the whole range of them. You can get the cheap, any everyday one anyone can get. You can get some mid-range ones, or you can be insane and get like $10,000 like military flight sim like VR
yeah,
heads.
and obviously most people aren't gonna get that though. They're gonna again that's why I think like Meta is um really at the forefront of this is because again the like that's pretty cheap for what it is. Like 200 something bucks, that's not bad at all. That's a steal, you know? Um and so as like VR technology gets cheaper and it's more accessible, more affordable and it's gonna get better too exponentially, along with cheaper and more accessible, you're gonna like we're gonna be living in Ready Player One, man. That's crazy. Um it's kind of horrifying. Meanwhile, though, I don't see robotics getting cheaper anytime soon.
No,
Um,
no, like you might see them used in like some of them are like, oh, they're shown for like construction or like just like heavy lifting, like warehouse junk. Like, oh, maybe
yeah,
you'll see a little bit
that's
more there. Like, you're starting to replace like forklift stuff, and it's just like,
yeah,
it's like okay, it'll start there, but it won't be as fast. It won't like catch on in a couple years like this other tech.
yeah.
That's like that's
You're not gonna have androids serving you at McDonald's. You're gonna have AI taking your order, and you're gonna
yes.
have like your meal coming out to you on a conveyor belt. But ultimately, there's still gonna be a human being involved in the process there for the foreseeable future.
It's funny. That makes me think of when I was in the UK at a McDonald's. It was the cashiers were just replaced with the little touchscreen things, and then there was just a little window where you could see a couple people kind of packaging the meals, but you see the products just come up on a little conveyor belt elevator at the back of the wherever they were, because I couldn't call it a kitchen because it's like they were just packaging the meals there. So it's just like
Yeah,
this is so strange. Like this is so like it's like oh, it's just automated now. Like you can get hired at McDonald's to put meals in bags.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can see that, of course, with the whole like, they've added all the like self-ordering screens at all these fast food places where you don't even have to talk to like a cashier. You could just, pick what you want, swipe your credit card, and your meal will come out to you. It'll be brought to you by a person, or it'll be put out, by a person. But that's like about it. You don't even have to talk anymore. You don't have to tell people. You just click on, yeah, I want, make a double and Coke, two Cokes, some fries. That's it. Um, I think so. I think it's easier, it's cheaper to do that kind of automation as opposed to the like robotic stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Um, it's just easier and it's cheaper. So I think that's the road technology is going to go down in that sense. Is we're not going to replace people with robots. We're
no,
we're going to change the method of interacting. I mean, we already are doing that. How many people do you know who, when they go to like the store, do they go to like the actual cashier,
mm,
or do they go to the self checkout?
right, exactly.
you know, you just avoid that method of doing things entirely. Um, yeah, so that's what I think is going to happen. Wow, we went on a huge ass tangent. God
But
damn.
hey, it's par for the course. It's just kind of like you know seeing how the series lines up with tech in the real world.
Yeah, 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 that's true. Yeah. It's in my opinion, my preference is that it's better when it's not doing that, because when you play, read, watch, whatever, the entries that aren't trying to do that, it feels more real, even though you're often actually dealing with like the most crazy like technological feats, you know?
Mhm.
Again, Chaos Head has like, oh, hey, here's this machine that can like bend reality. Steins Gate, you know, you're time traveling. Occultic Nine, all its weirdness. But because it's not trying to predict the future, it's just living in the moment in the, you know, it's a story that's just taking place in the time it's written basically.
Yeah,
It feels, you know, like when you play Chaos Head, you're like, yep, this feels like 2009, like to the T.
yeah,
You play Steins Gate, yep, this feels like 2010. Chaos Child, yep, feels like 2015. Cultic 9 feels like 2016. You don't get that feeling with Robotic Snouts. It feels like a whole different world. You can kind of almost like believe the other stories are happening in your reality,
yeah,
you know? We're probably not anonymous code is more like swallowable right now because you know it's not 2037, but I imagine when 2037 comes around we're going to be looking back at it and being like, yeah, this feels like a whole different reality.
yeah.
um which, you know, that's just my preference. I just like when, you know, when the science adventure entries really feel like a time capsule of the era they're from.
Yes, and
um
fit into reality more.
exactly, again, even when like the craziest stuff in the series is going on, it still somehow feels more real.
Yeah, instead of like, oh, okay, it's this fictional, far away setting of this far off year, or robotics notes where it was that, but now it's just like, ah, alternate, alternate timeline. Tech went a different route than that.
Exactly.
And yeah, like you said, we'll be saying the same thing when 2030s roll around.
Yeah. So
There's no Earth simulators. There's no
yeah, and
BMIs.
I don't think it's a bad thing inherently, but it's because you know there's plenty of like works of fiction that like take place in the future, but like the future is clearly not that. You know, Blade Runner is probably the best instance of that. Takes place in 2019. The 20. I don't know if you've noticed, but 2019 did not look like Blade Runner. Um,
No, no, not at
like
all.
at all. Yeah. Um,
Sadly,
and I love Blade Runner still. You know, that discrepancy doesn't matter to me. I think again the issue with science adventure is that you do have these entries that are very um the setting at least is very grounded in reality, and so when you have these other entries that aren't as much, it it conflicts, you know.
yeah, yeah, it's quite a different, because the other ones, like, it's just they have the same vibe. Like, it's just like,
Yeah, I get what
uh,
you mean.
yeah, it just has that vibe. It doesn't feel like fantasy, like a story, I guess. I mean, it is obviously, but it's like, especially when they're talking about things and concepts and conspiracies that are just real, eh, or the conspiracies exist in real life. You could debate on whether the conspiracy itself is real, but
My favorite, a brief tangent. My favorite Steins Gate came out in 2009. Takes place in 2010. One of the in the it's not mentioned in the anime, but in the visual novel, the one of the big plot points is the echelon system, which at the time was just a conspiracy theory, you know, unproven as most are. And then 2013 comes along, Edward Snowden comes and is just like, yeah, that's real, by the way. That's my favorite thing that's happened with science adventure. Just like, oh yeah, that funny conspiracy theory you referenced in your original novel, that's real. That's actual. Like the echelon system like existed at the very least, which that's real.
yes, yeah, incredibly real.
But yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, no, it's just, it's, yeah, no, it's that. It's like, in my world, I can go and I can research John Titor and CERN and all the time travel like stuff for real. Like obviously it's like, oh, conspiracy X posting, just but in the in the game, it kind of, how do I put it? It's like it scratches that itch of like, but
Yeah,
it's real. Like it's like, and this is how we'll
I,
like encounter it in the day to day. Instead of here, it's like debatable. Like it might be. There's a lot of evidence to say it is, but it could also
yeah,
just be a conspiracy theory. But in that, it's like it just gets proven real, like in real time, and it's just like the consequences of that. It's just like
I 100% get what you mean.
I want to experience what they're experiencing, even if it's horrifying.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's very, that's part of why I like the series so much is that it 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 uses a lot of, again, like real world conspiracy theory, and just a lot of real world inspiration in general that, again, you you could hear about, you do hear about, you do kind of, um are things that people believe are true, are real. And I think, with conspiracy theories, the appeal of them is, it's always the even if you're not like a true believer, there's the what if, you know
Yeah,
because, like, yeah, they haven't been proven real, but there's always that part of your mind, that unscientific part of your mind that doesn't care about, postulates of, oh well, if it can't be disproven, then why even like consider it? It's like, yeah, well, that's not how the human mind works. The human mind is always going to go, oh well, yeah, it's not proven, but it's not disproven really
yeah.
either. you um so yeah, you hear,
Back to the
John
motto.
Titor.
I want to believe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Science adventure very much utilizes that to its benefit. Uses, the story of John Teeter and the conspiracies around CERN. Um, there's mention of HARP and, um, like mind control and
It's like basically sum it up as,
okay.
remember the Georgia Guidestones? That's that's your science adventure like main antagonizing driving force.
That's the thing too. The Georgia Guidestones get mentioned several times throughout the series. Like, they're brought up several times, and they're like, yeah, like that is the Committee of 300. That is the Illuminati telling you their plans right there. Like, they just say it. But so, kind of going back to what I think, obviously each entry in the series kind of has its own themes, its own thing it's going for. But one thing I haven't really seen anyone talk about is what the overarching story, the overarching series is trying to say, what its like kind of ultimate themes are. And I think Anonymous Code really helps. Anonymous Code and its kind of exploration of, not 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 just exploration of Dickian concepts, but retroactive like retroactively pointing out, hey, look at all these other Dickian concepts that have been throughout the series. You just didn't realize it. I am reminded of the concept of, again, the Black Iron Prison, and, the Empire never ending. Superstructure, this like this construct, this force socially, across time and space. And I think that's why it's important. This is how I justify, both, to myself at least, both the entries that take place, very timely from when they're released to the more kind of forward seeking ones, is that I think that helps illustrate this concept of, this is kind of like a war taking place. a secret war taking place across time between, the little guy and this big force that is the Committee of 300. And so I think that's why when you think about it in this sense, the plot of Anonymous Code, where the big motto as for Anonymous Code, the big tagline was hacking into God, that concept. And then of course, once you realize what that really entails, what that means, when you realize, the Black Knight satellite, Valak, which, as we mentioned in the K Dick episode, was a kind of conception by Dick of his kind of neo-Gnostic conception of God for Dick. And then of course the connection between Valis and the Black Knight satellite, but then also the Black Knight satellite and us, this connecting of hacking into God and kind of it really referring to ostensibly hacking into us, in our reality. And then when you look back throughout the series, there's references to God throughout the series. Like they utilize God as a concept throughout the series to kind of help understand, metaphorically make sense of the events of the story in a way. Um, to kind of what I would call narrativize what's going on in the from the perspective of the um the characters. For instance, you have one of the big phrases in Chaos Head, the first story, um, is those whose eyes are those eyes, which is in universe. The main character Takumi constantly feels God's gaze upon him, but he doesn't. He feels like he's watched. He's being watched all the time. He doesn't know who, by whom, or what. So he always utters the phrase to himself, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" And kind of this kind of paranoid mantra of his. And he calls this watchful gaze God's gaze. And of course, in Chaos Child, the big tag one of the big taglines there is, those eyes are God's eyes. And there's kind of like in the story, like narrative, like reasons for these things, like in universe narrative reasons. But of course, knowing what we know now from Anonymous Code, it's kind of recontextualized where it's like, okay, God's gaze was Shogun, but what if it was also us too? And it clearly was, considering we're playing the game, and we see it from his perspective. And there's many hints that he's kind of there's a lot of like meta jokes he makes because he's a Takami's a gamer. Um, and so he as he's like losing his mind, he's like, "I'm a character in a video game," and it's like, "Yes, you are." Um, correct. Steins Gate brings up the concept of God, but it in a different way. But also kind of not really. It's just it's Steins Gate. It kind of antagonizes God. God is kind of seen as like the enforcer of the hell that is convergence, and the inability to kind of, or not the inability, but the difficulty, the supreme difficulty in trying to mess with time, you know?
Yeah, true. Fighting fate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. However, it kind of, again, now in retrospect, it kind of seems that was mistaken because in a sense, it was mistaken in a sense, but also kind of correct in a sense because we are, you know, we are the god gazing at time that is mentioned of the kind of non-diegetic experience of Steins Gate. Again, we're seeing it through Okabe's eyes. We're ostensibly helping him through our, control of the phone trigger mechanic. We're essentially helping him get to the best end. We are the force
Yeah,
operating through the Black Knight satellite that helps him get there. Um,
of course.
We are Valis. So again, you kind of look at this in a new way with the knowledge of anonymous code and this kind of connection to Philip K. Dick's work and philosophy, and you ostensibly realize that they're what the committee kind of represents is the empire that he mentions in his writing and the Black Iron Prison. Um, well, mainly the empire, but the Black Iron Prison obviously kind of being encompassed both by them and the world, by the Committee 300 and the world itself. And that's why I'm really interested in seeing where the series is going, because what I mean by hacking into the Black Knight satellite, what Paulon did was ostensibly hack into the Black Iron Prison. He hacked into the fabric of his reality, if not socially, literally. But I think where I think the implications get interesting is that like where Dick was kind of talking about the Black Iron Prison as again this kind of social superstructure kind of way. He's talking about, as with all things, Dick, it's not necessarily certain whether he was speaking literally or like kind of metaphorically with his ideas. But from what I've seen and read, the kind of consensus that is it's interesting because you know the Black Iron Prison as a concept, you're trying to escape. The ultimate goal obviously is to escape the Black Iron Prison. But
Yeah.
like, what when you think about it for a second, and what is kind of illustrated by anonymous code is that you really can't, you know,
Yeah. Right.
but because you're part of it, you're not so much a prisoner so much as like a living cell in a way. Is the best way I can put that. I don't know. A prison comprised of nothing but wardens is maybe a better way to put it.
React. Yeah.
But again, this it's not like completely bleak. There's still again you can hack into the Black Iron Prison. You can't escape it, but you can change it. You can alter it. You can make it better, just a little less shitty, bit by bit. And I think that's why. I mean, ultimately, I want to see the Avengers entry. Where all the characters from all the previous entries meet and team up and finally kick the Illuminati's ass. That's awesome. But as the more and more time goes on, the more I'm starting to think that's probably not going to happen because that doesn't really jive with this kind of theme.
It's just gonna never end. Is that what we're saying? Just science adventure series forever.
I don't think it's that it's never going to end, but that like if we do get especially one logically when you like right when you look at like the time frame of the series now, how it's been expanded, like that Avengers entry made sense when it was just Chaos Head and Steins Gate. It still kind of made sense when Robotics Notes came out. Still made sense when Chaos Child came out and Cultic 9. But now that we have an entry that takes place in the 2030s, like most of those characters are old, really old. They're not going to be kicking ass, you know. So I think it's gonna. I think it's kind of gonna happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen in like a super bombastic, action-packed way. I think it's gonna be more subtle. than that. If you ask me personally, I think it's gonna be like trippy in a sense. I think it's gonna be less. I think they're gonna beat the committee in a way that's less, Gurren Lagann, where Simone just beats the shit out of the anti spirals, and more Evangelion, where like you're like, what happened? Like he defeated, like he won, I think, maybe kind of.
Maybe I don't know. Just reset everything.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be more along like the trippy lines that anime is kind of renowned for, where it's just like
Yeah, just pull a Devilman Crybaby. It's fine.
I don't know if it's gonna be a Devil May Cry. I think Science Animation is more optimistic than that, but I think again, Evangelion is the best way I can put it because Evangelion's ending isn't. I mean, it's kind of a downer, but it's not hopeless. You know, like
Yeah,
Shinji ultimately, he renounces an instrumentality. He chooses to be an individual, and when he wakes up on the beach, Asuka's there with him, and yeah, he kind of strangles her, but she kind of is like disgusted by him, but she also like treats him with genuine kindness for like the first time throughout the entire fucking series. And there's like a hint that now that they understand each other, like maybe sure, the world ended, and the seas run red and sky is red, and there's a giant corpse covering the planet, but at least we have each other. Congratulations, Shinji. Congratulations. I think it's gonna be more like that, or not super downer, but also like
just like what? What did he mean by this?
yeah. I think it's definitely gonna be more along those lines. I mean, again, that's just my prediction.
It's
I'm not
like
Fess. I'm not Mew. I can't see the future.
it's gotta be. It's like which way does the series go? Does it just go like shonen, like silly, just like like the last entry is just big fight? Like oh, everyone get their Gigalomania swords and miracle powers and just physically just take down the committee, or like you're saying, is gonna be some just crazy like time travel world layer, like just nuke the simulation. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be something insane, and again, it would have to be, I think, because like just like beating up some old dudes, that doesn't seem right for the ending of this series, where the first the first entry you defeat a man who like was like using technology to like basically make himself a god. In the second entry, you like overcome fate itself to stop the Illuminati, like to stop World War III and like the Illuminati's takeover in the future. Um, in robotics notes, I mean, it was kind of more shonen because you literally kick ass in a giant robot, but still. Occultic 9, you uh that was kind of more shonen, I guess, because you use the power to destroy like these giant like radio towers that were gonna somehow meld the spirit realm and the world of the living to make the Illuminati immortals about.
Yeah, that happened.
Um,
That sure was a thing.
and but in an anonymous code again, also kind of more shonen, but again, like you fucking like take on this like crazy kid with like godlike powers. Um, so like these are all like shonen or not, they're like, well, I mean, honestly, they're all kind of shonen minus Steins Gate, and no, Chaos Child is kind of shonen in a way. Their build up is very like subtle. For the most part, it's just like fight like they all end with like fight the bad dude,
Yeah.
like fuck shit up, blow shit up. Um, there's nothing wrong with that, but like what I'm trying to say, regardless of how you categorize them, they're still bombastic. You know,
Yeah.
you're doing crazy shit. You're doing more than just going up against rich old dudes. I mean, a lot of time they are rich old dudes, but like it's more than just that. So
Yeah.
I would hope it the ending of the series is like that too. I would hope that it's the craziest of all of them. Like you have to go hard and go home, and so you've already gone with stopping like overriding the world, fighting against fate, stopping like black hole destruction, spirit realm merging, and like the annihilation, like the complete annihilation and deletion of reality. Like they're gonna have to top that.
How are we gonna one up this? We'll have to see. It will have to
But
be something completely insane, like Eva or
yeah,
uh,
it's gonna be nutty, or at least I hope it's gonna be nutty. Um, we gotta see how they gonna free themselves. That's
yes.
again the whole concept. If I were to give the whole series an overarching theme, it is the fight to free oneself from the Black Iron Prison, from literally the constructed reality around you. That's a big thing across pretty much the entirety of the series, both chaos entries, um, robotics notes, even anonymous code, and occultic 9 too. And yeah, all the entries bring up one of the big overarching things they bring up is kind of they all to some extent, obviously some more so than others, like the chaos entries cover the concept of kind of like manipulating people's reality, if not literally via like gigalomania, but like you know augmented reality and brain machine interfaces, or even just like the internet, and like
Yeah. And the big one of just changing the timeline via time travel to make it what you want.
yes. So they're all about how there's this group, this again, this superstructure that um is controlling things, but is more importantly being thrust upon the characters and their fight against it um to really be free, to really have their own say, um their own choice in their lives, as they see fit, to kind of it's but so what I'm trying to say is what makes what I really like about the series though is it's not um it doesn't do this thing that a lot of stories with similar themes do, which is they have this kind of backdrop for like the antagonizing force, but a lot of the time what they'll do is the kind of message is a very like mythbusters I reject your reality and substitute my own type of thing. Um, s- it's about the message is, it's all about your truth, your reality, and science adventure isn't really like that. It kind of is. It kind of is in a sense. I could see how you can get that, but I think what science adventure is really trying to get to is, um, it science adventure is about capital T truth. It's not about your truth, your reality, substituting your reality with the committee's. It's not. It's about you know unshackling the black iron prison, the committee's reality from yourself, and finding true reality, like capital R reality, capital T truth, um, regardless of what that might entail, like kind of consequences be damned. Um, but I think why I consider science adventure to be such an optimistic series is that what at first can be like interpreted as, again, this kind of like your reality, your truth, you know, um, is what's most important. I think is more accurately interpreted as the characters being rewarded for their service to capital T truth at the end. You know,
Yeah.
it's it's not that it's not that Takumi gets, the ultimate GF Remy at the end because that's what he wants. Though it is what he wants, and it is what he ultimately is, striving and fighting for. It's it's because he's honest with himself about who he is. Ultimately, as crazy as it is, Remy comes to like him for him as much as a like loser freak he is. But I think ultimately because he's fighting for, again, capital R reality. Norose, the main villain of Chaos Head, he is the one who wants to use Noah, the device, to like essentially rewrite the world and make it like a perfect utopia. Which is why I think this is such an important theme, has been from the get go. But Takumi rejects that. He doesn't want the utopia. He just wants to live in his fucking shack. in,
There.
in,
Yeah.
in his shipping container, with his pink haired waifu, his IRL anime GF. Um, he's not just rejecting the committee's reality. He's rejecting even his own like ideal reality at the end, in a sense. Like he not idealized reality for the reality that he's earned over the course of the story, that's real and true because of what he's overcome and how like honest he's had to be with himself about who he is as a person.
Mhm.
Um, in Steins Gate, yeah, ultimately, Elkave kind of doesn't give like a rat's ass about like throughout the story, it's just like he kind of gets to the point where he's just like, yeah, whatever, certain like the committee dystopia or World War III, like whatever. I just care about like saving Mayuri and Kurisu. Um, but again, once he's kind of, I mean, obviously he takes a stance against the committee, but like once he's even kind of, which is why I think Steins Gate Zero is important because it shows Steins Gate. You see him um really kind of come into his stance against the committee, and in Zero you get to see him um gain his stance against World War fucking three. Um, which I think to most people would kind of be like an obvious stance, but I'm glad Steins Gate Zero does that because again, it's once he it's once he's kind of like one honest with himself, about like yes, I don't really care about saving the world. I just want to save my curry soup. But also once he's honest about himself as a person, who he is, even with all the in crazy bullshit that kind of comes along with that, and what that means. But also just simply the fact that the reality of that the Mayuri and Kurisu and dystopia and World War III are like interlinked, and he's losing all that anyway, whether he cares about those things intrinsically as themselves or not, like that they matter for because of the effects they'll have on his life in regards to the people he cares about, that he and at the end kind of gets to have his cake and eat it. Um and so you see this again and again throughout the series, and again in Anonymous Code. um it's this whole time you're being told like, yeah, Momo, she can't, um like once this is done, once this is over, like she's gone, like she's being like wiped from the simulation, it's over. And it's you can get the end where you let that happen, but if you go back and when Polan's like in despair, at the thought of like, we saving the world, but I can't save Momo, and you open up the save menu and you're like, nah, dog, that's bullshit. Don't even fucking, nah, dude. Go get your girl. Go back to the start. You're doing this, man. It's right here. You can do it. You could save the world and her. It's not true. You're not locked into this ending. You can do this, man. Um, that not only is the world saved and all the destruction that happened in that first iteration avoided, lives are saved. Like just all this crazy shit avoided. Momo Momo's saved, and she can they can be together, and it's Kino.
It's the best way to
It's
put it for all of
that's
them.
just the best way. Yeah, that's just the best way to say it. It's Kino. It's fucking Kino.
God, I wish that were me.
Well, and see, I think this is as much as we constantly, literally me post about our favorite literally me characters. I think Science Adventure as a series is, I think it should be regarded a lot more like Gurren Lagann is, like Gurren Lagann is like the series where like, whenever like someone on the internet is like depressed and like hopeless and they're like, "Oh man, like, it's fucked, there's nothing I can do. Like my life is over before it even began. Like what am I even doing here?" Like inevitably you'll see someone in like response be like post like a fucking comment Kamina gif and be like, "Nah, dog, like let's see you grit those teeth, dog, because you're nah, no, none of that anti-spiral shit." I think science adventure is like should be regarded in that sense where it's just like, you know, every entry has that moment where it's just like the main character is like completely broken. He doesn't want to continue. He's just like, I've done what I could do, I've stopped this thing and there's, what else can I do? It's either this or that. There's no choice. And then of course, how do you get the true end? It's when you go, nah, that's fucking horseshit, dog. That's some bullshit. I'm gonna save Mayuri and Kurisu. I'm gonna save all the world layers and Momo, like all of that. But of course, there's also I think this is where um uh, because science adventure is such a like expansive series. I think a great another good entry to talk about is Chaos Child. Um, because that whole entry is it's basically like overtly about capital T truth. Um, and kind of like the search for it and how that yes, most of the main characters um get rewarded in the end, but like that's because of what they've done kind of in service ostensibly of capital T truth and their the fact that like yeah they're flawed but they're like not complete pieces of shit. They're not directly really responsible for any of the things that happen. Of course, when you get to the end of Chaos Child, you the truth, the capital T truth, is that Takeru is at fault and to blame for what's happened, and the capital T truth is that he must be punished for that. So he meets not a good end, but it's the end he deserves ultimately. And I think um I think that's why like this is something that it needs to be talked about more, and I need to probably flesh out my thoughts on all of this a lot more because this whole thing I already know that like when it drops it's gonna be like super rambly and anyone who actually listens is gonna be like, what the hell?
There's so much to unpack with it. Like we're barely scratching the surface here. Like you can give each entry an entire episode or series if you wanted to.
I yeah, I was gonna say I think this might be where I announce it or like yeah, I think this will, if only just so that like I can have it on record and so that
Hmm.
I can like kick my own ass if I get lazy. I'm think I'm going to start. I'm gonna. Yeah, no, I'm wording that wrong. I'm 100% on my own channel. I'm gonna, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go into each entry, in depth, with all of this stuff fully explained in a like a script. They're gonna be
Script.
scripted videos so that I'm not like spurging out like random nonsense that doesn't make sense to anyone but me and maybe Koji.
Yes.
I'm
Enlighten
gonna
the
do
masses to the kino that is
yeah.
science adventure.
I'm gonna make you all right-siders.
Yes, as you should. As you should. You should go purchase every entry that you can and read through them, and then you will know. You'll finally understand.
You will become enlightened,
Uh,
but
who?
only if you 100% each and every entry.
Yes. And once you do that, the pink beam of Alice will hit you in the brain, and you will just
It's true.
awaken
It happened to
fully.
me.
Yeah, it comes with the series. Yeah, no, that's
It's a great selling point. Buy my games and you will become enlightened.
you will escape the prison.
So real. So real.
But yes, might be a good place to kind of put a
Is it gonna be
pin
it?
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's for the best. We this has been
before we
an
start going,
insane
and before we start going too deep into the other series and the implications.
yeah. Yeah. Oh man, this has
This
been a crazy episode.
truly has
Um
been
if you understood it,
just round of applause. Like,
yeah, I just imagine the end of the Evangelion
yeah. Speaking of
TV
that,
show where everyone's just like, "Congratulations, congratulations!" Like that's what we're doing right now. Just imagine that, because
see now,
wow,
now I
you are in
really
for a
want Science Adventure series to end like that, like just for real. Like
congratulations.
it's just yeah. But no, no, like nothing
You
after
won.
that. Just cuts to credits. It's just like what reality collapses, and it's just you did it. How do you feel?
You did it. Congrats. It's over now.
Go
Yeah.
go.
So that was um that.
Yes,
That
that
was
was.
our like mind melted thoughts on Anonymous Code and really the series as a whole, but try to mainly keep it on Anonymous Code.
Yeah, a
It's
nice
a
little
really
part two to Philip K. Dick, also kind of thematically.
yeah, yeah. Um
Everything's connected. So
exactly. It's all connected. Um that's everything is connected. Was that a hint to one of the later episodes we're going to be doing? Perhaps.
mm.
But yeah. Yeah, that's
Find out
the
next
Anonymous
week
Code is
on Layer.
exactly. Find out next time. Next time, read Anonymous Code first though. Go buy it. Go
Yes,
read it. It's good. And
yes.
yeah,
Us
back into
out.
the Black Iron Prison, boys.
Yes. Let us out, or delete the simulation. I don't know. Anything, anything interesting,
This man just wants it to end.
please. On 32-bit crash break everything.
We'll see. We'll have to wait for 2038. See if it happens. We got a ways to go, man.
We'll do a watch party. Or a watch party. Just kind of sit around. We'll live stream as it ticks down, and the
live
internet.
live streaming the 2038 problem. Awesome. All right.
This has been Layer
Peace out.
One. Bye. Ascend, escape.